Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Africa. You know we love you in Africa. Big C, if we don't shout them out, they'll give us some hate mail, Big C. I do also want to say we love you up in Canada, but there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful December the 14th. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I think it's going a little better for us and those boys up in Canada. I believe it's a little cold up there right now.
Yeah.
The snow is about knee deep and down in the single digits, so I'm happy to be here in the south versus up in the north.
Yeah, we know. We love the weather. In fact, I was watching the weather reports out here in California, and they're saying for a lot of places around the country, the weather out here in California is up into the 70s and 80s. I think it was 80 degrees in Los Angeles, just over the last couple of days. And then I watched how you guys down south are getting snow. It snowed in on the East Coast. Big C, is Mother Nature having a good time, or is she mad at Trump, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, he said there's no climate change. There's nothing to prove that, the atmosphere has changed over the decades. And, I think it's attributed. Well, I can understand the heat in California with all the wildfires, unfortunately, out there, Charlton. That's going to drive up the heat. But it's very paramount that we see that there's been an adjustment in the climate around here in the United States as well as around the world, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because we've had some uncanny conditions here in my lifetime and seen the difference. And for those who think that we haven't affected the climate here in the world, that's just a person who's trying to turn a profit, Charlton. That's all that is.
Yep, we definitely.
The rest of us here in society that our children and our grandchildren will be affected by these things that are changing daily and weekly and hourly in the world. And a lot of it comes from greenhouse gases. And for people to say that it doesn't affect the climate, Charlton, if you don't think that greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide affects the climate, Charlton, get in your car, put a water hose in the tailpipe.
No. Big Z.
That's all the naysayers. That's the people who say it doesn't affect it, okay?
Yeah, I'm just saying be careful because 41% of the population follows us in Alabama, and we don't want to have any good old boys saying, you know what, I think I'm going to try that. Speaking of putting water in your tailpipe, I want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So Big C, again, with so many great things happening in the world of sports, in the world of politics. Again, I want to say all of our thoughts and prayers are with the great people of Southern California with all of the wildfires down there. And it's just amazing how many gorgeous areas that are really scenic areas like Ventura along the Highway 101 and Highway 1, and then you have the 405 that runs down through Hollywood. A lot of good people having a lot of displaced properties being destroyed. And I just want to say we hope you all get out safe and heed the warning when they say it's time to evacuate. Big C, I know at some point in time sports can bring people together, and especially when you have some of the calamities going on in the world of sports, especially in Southern California. What advice do you give to people? You guys have been through the hurricanes, you've been through the floods, you've been through a lot of that stuff, and then the snow, Big C. What advice do you give to people when the emergency team says it's time to get out, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you're going to have to heed to that warning. When you have experts telling you it's time to go, property can be replaced. I mean, there's some memorabilia stuff that you probably can't replace, Charlton, just because of the rareness of it.
Yep.
But when you think about the clothing and the property and automobiles, those things can be replaced, Charlton. We can't replace life. I mean, everybody cherishes the memories that we've put together over our lifetimes. We sit back. I know I have things in my home that couldn't be replaced, but I also have family that couldn't be replaced also, Charlton, and that's more valuable. I mean, I think about memorabilia that I possess over the decades of participating in sports. No, it can't be replaced.
No.
But nor do I even utilize it, Charlton. Majority of it, I think about championship rings. I don't even wear them.
No.
Because they're so weighted and gaudy.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're more for people on the outside than what they are on the inside. They're part of your life, just like family portraits and stuff, Charlton. You know that they're there. You see them. You can always open a book and turn a page and remember a poignant point in your life.
Yep.
But if you don't have your life, Charlton, you can never reminisce on these things, Charlton. So it's very important that we heed, and those people that are in peril's way, heed the warning of the professionals. When they say it's time to go, let's go. Take the things that you can take. Put them in your car. Have your car already packed, Charlton, to leave. Don't sit there and wait for them knocking on the door and say, hey, it's time to go. Well, we haven't put anything in the car. Be prepared. It's best to just leave, period. Because if a fire comes down the canyon where you live, Charlton, that garden hose is not going to put it out, unfortunately.
Well, Big C, and we've seen people think that a garden hose can actually help their house. I see people out spraying their houses down when the forest fire is running, where even the fire department can't handle it, and some good old boy's out with his water hose trying to spray his house down, thinking it's going to save his house. When that fire comes through, it's almost like trying to cover a charcoal in a barbecue pit. It's going to burn everything. So hopefully everybody heeds that warning and just get out safe. You can always come back and rebuild. A lot of people have done that. In fact, when you think about it, and I want to bring up this point because of what you talked about yesterday. And we talked about African Americans. We always want to praise whether someone's a good athlete or someone is a Rhodes Scholar. But when you think about it, we don't own our names. But I want to say what the whole world, in fact, the entire universe can learn from Black Americans. You have a whole group of people that were displaced from their own continent. Now think about this. When slavery happened, there was people being sold into slavery and in the slave trade and all that garbage. We know how reprehensible that was. But think about that, being stolen from your homeland or sold from your homeland. And you talked about just yesterday, which really was kind of latent in my mind. People really don't know where their kids are because they were sold like cattle. Okay, but look at how the diaspora of Black Americans in the United States, the land of the free and the home of the brave, we've been being stripped from a continent 3,000 miles away, come to the Americas and the South Americas, and we found success even against all odds. Talk about the mindset, Big C, that the Black American experience can really show a lot of people who are worried about our home. There are people taking it from an entire continent, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you talk about the fabric of America, and the fabric of America has been woven by African Americans and minorities and whole, Charlton. Because when you talk about the building and making America great, I mean, the president preaches about that all the time.
Yep.
But he omits the contribution of the African Americans in American society and how they made America great. Without the contributions of African Americans, Charlton, America would be nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about facetiously, Charlton.
It's a fact.
When we look at the major contributions of the creations, if you go back and you look at what's been landmarked as far as creations by African Americans, Charlton, you think of patents that have been created by African Americans. And I'll always take people back to the invention of electricity.
Yeah.
Everybody says the founder of electricity is Benjamin Franklin, okay?
Yep.
Benjamin Franklin owned slaves. Benjamin Franklin was not out there holding that kite in that electrical storm. Okay?
No, I highly doubt that.
He just took the patent because if he was holding that kite, Charlton, he wouldn't know what the effect of electricity was because he'd been fried like many of the slaves that put out there to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to be realistic when we look at the basic necessities of America. They were invented by Black males. The Industrial Revolution of America was invented by Blacks, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they don't get the credit for it because they were owned by slave owners. So all of their creations became patents of the slave owners who became richer and richer, Charlton, over the decades. So when we want to talk about Make America Great, Charlton, the president needs to be honest about how making America great. You know, here's a guy who ran a cabinet in Washington, D.C. with only 3 blacks in it, Charlton.
Wow.
Saying that they were very diverse.
Yeah.
Now they're down to 2, okay?
Yeah.
They're down to 2. And Sarah Huckabee comes out and says, well, that's great diversity in the president's cabinet. Between male and female, that's the only diversity that you have.
Yeah, that's
the blacks
funny.
that were in there, you didn't see them. You didn't even know they were in there until Uma, resigned yesterday.
Yeah.
You didn't know she was a part of the cabinet.
Yeah, Omarosa, yeah. And I want to bring that point up, too, because, and this is one misnomer that a lot of people have, like we're one monolithic group. There's a diaspora of people, a diversity of people, Big C, no matter what color we are, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Italian, whether you're German, whether you're Dutch, whether you're African American, Native American. You know, we're all people. We're all people with a nation of laws, and that's what I appreciate about our diversity. But when I hear people saying they don't want to leave their neighborhoods because they don't want to lose their home that could be burned down, or for whatever reason, earthquakes happen, all that jazz. I think when you realize, when you study African American history, we are a great example of what it takes to rebuild. Number one, you got to have a faith in yourself. Number two, you got to have a belief that you can do it. And number three, you got to keep going forward, and you don't quit no matter what. I think about some of the things in the world of sports, Big C, and we talk about that. And this is for people who really don't own their last names, because I don't own my last name, and you don't own your last name, Big C. But we have gone out and made successes of ourselves. And I want to say that because I want to piggyback on what Charles Barkley talked about. When he said it's one thing for Doug Moore to get the vote, and the black vote, helped him win Alabama. For Doug Jones to win Alabama over Moore. And I think about when he said, we need you to come down here and create infrastructure. Big C, any city that doesn't have jobs or an infrastructure, or a government sector and a private sector, you cannot have employment. That's the next stage of hope that we need. If you don't have something in your stomach, it's hard to think when you're in school. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charles, when you look at the movement of African Americans throughout American history, after slavery and even before slavery was abolished, Charles, well, when you look at the migration segments of America where African Americans live, they moved on, Charles, and they started their lives without anything. So when you look at the progression of African Americans in American society and how they built communities, built businesses, built industry, built neighborhoods, Charles, they did that without anything, through ingenuity, working together, Charlton, pooling themselves. And I go back to what Roy Moore said. Well, America was great when we had slavery.
What a joke!
It was greater after slavery, because you gave African Americans an opportunity to prove their worth, other than just in the field. And that's what people feared the most. White America feared that the most in society. They knew that these people had ingenuity and integrity. And they didn't want that out in the mainstream, because once it got out there, it showed that they were no longer superior. So you think about all the oppression that had been done to black people in America over the 450 years that they've been here, Charlton. And it still continues today. That is what the African American race has been oppressed more than any race in America. I understand that Native Americans have been oppressed a lot, Charlton, but they have not been oppressed to the level of African Americans. They weren't enslaved, Charlton. They were run off their land, but they were not enslaved. They were not killed just to kill on a daily basis. They were not raped and mutilated on a daily basis, Charlton. But you think about what that culture of people have fought through, Charlton, and the levels that they have risen in America and are still rising, regardless of all the hatred and bigotry that still exists in America. Because if there was ever a even playing field in America, Charlton, think about the heights that the African American culture could rise to. Only even playing field that African Americans have, and it's still not even. It's in the world of sports. They are given more opportunity in the world of sports because of their greater athletic agility than any other culture. But they still have limitations because they're not allowed into ownership. They're not allowed in the upper management in mass numbers, Charlton. There's a limited, positions that's going to be allowed in. When you look at politics, Charlton, I mean, if you go back and research the history of politics, to say that African Americans cannot get elected, Charlton, that's wrong. And the reason why they can't get elected because they weren't allowed to run for a long, long time. Even though they would have had the backings of their own communities, Charlton, there was limitations because of what local communities would not allow them to do.
Well, Big C,
the advancement and the continued advancement of a culture, Charlton, will never be ending here in America.
And see, I love what you brought up, because, again, people talk about not wanting to lose their homes, not wanting to lose their property and belongings. When you take someone from the continent and put them in chains and bring them across the ocean water that takes, months to get there, and you have millions that died during the Middle Passage, look at what we are. We're still very strong, and I'm saying every ethnic group has their own pride. But the story that has to be told about the African American as a group, as a whole, is that we've gone through we're like the phoenix. We keep rising through the fire. And I say that for people who think about losing their house and not wanting to escape and evacuate. When they say evacuate, We've lost our whole continent for the most part, and now we still find a way to rebuild. I just think that's an important message that we got to send, because the average message sent about African Americans is, oh, be careful of those young men. You never know what they might do to you. Or they're good, big, strong, physical athletes. Are we the best lovers? We'll take that, Big C. We'll take. We gotta own something. So some things are not a fallacy, okay? But I do want to say, for everybody, you can always rebuild. And one thing I love about Big C Sports is we'll take your mind as far as you're willing to take it. Always believe that you can make it happen, no matter what. Big C, I want to bring up something that happened in the world of the NFL, and I look at Vance Joseph, the coaching. We talked about, getting the opportunity for the vote, and I think about how the African American athlete has made sports a $1 billion industry in the United States. If you look at the top sports in the United States, you have the NFL, you have the NBA, and you have college football and basketball, and the majority of athletes happen to be black. I mean, you can Google that too for you good old boys down south. And I want to say that for this reason. When people think all we can do is play sports, and I'm talking about the people that don't want to give us opportunity, but we'll make opportunity happen. Look at how important the black vote is, and they tried to oppress it for years, and now you can see what happened in Alabama, why them good old boys have always tried to obstruct the black vote. Big C, we're not just athletes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that goes with the Attorney General of the United States, Charles, Jeff Sessions. You think about it when he was senator in Alabama. And here's a man, an Attorney General, was responsible for closing down 23 DMV offices, Charles, in mainly minority areas. Think about it.
Yeah.
23 DMV offices. When you close down a DMV office, Charles, it makes it very difficult for you to get your driver's license.
Yep.
Because you have to drive an exorbitant distance to get there. Not only that, you have to wait in longer lines. And once you become discouraged, Charles, you'll get your driver's license, but you'll forget to register to vote.
Yeah.
Because the amount of time that you're spending there. These things were done to limit people's opportunity to vote, because you don't need to register for your driver's license every year, Charles. Depending on the state, it's a 5-10-year registration.
Yeah.
But sometime when you change addresses, you need to go register in your local registry to be able to vote.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be admitted from that. And so they did this systematically, Charles, to eliminate minorities. And if you go back and look at the 23 DMV offices that were closed, they were heavy minority-populated areas.
Yeah.
This was an intentional act by the Attorney General of the United States, now the current Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, to limit black voting, to make sure he stayed in office and others of his thinking, like a Roy Moore, would stay in office, Charles.
Yeah.
But, the African Americans have fought through these adversities since they've been in this country, Charles.
Yep.
Every time you put up a wall, which Trump is still trying to build, against African American society, they have found a way to bridge that barrier.
Yeah.
To go out. You cross the barrier in athletics. We look at when Jackie Robinson crossed the color barrier in baseball. That was a wall that was up for decades.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Against African Americans. No, we don't want them to compete because we know that they're better, and the minute people see that they're better, we can no longer use that lie that we're the superior race like Hitler did.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That they can't. Jesse Owens, when he competed against Hitler in the 36th Olympics.
Yeah, in Berlin.
He did not get a job when he came back to America. He had to go back to his alma mater, Ohio State, and work as a janitor. This was a man who had won 4 gold medals, an unprecedented feat at any time in the Olympics, Charlton.
Yeah.
And when he came back to America, he was still treated like slave mentality. He was not worthy of working and earning a living to support his family.
Yeah.
He had to work as a janitor. He couldn't go out and promote himself. At one time, Charlton, he had to run against racehorses to earn a living because he could not get a job in American society, Charlton. This has gone over forever and ever. You think about the great Satchel Paige.
Yep.
Never got a chance to pitch at the major leagues until he was 54 years old.
Yep.
54. And still won a World Series ring with the Cleveland Indians.
Yep.
So African Americans for decades, Charlton, have been omitted from sports, not having the opportunity. You think about the early days of the NFL. You're going to tell me that African Americans weren't great athletes? Like I said, Jesse Owens was the fastest man in the world. Jackie Robinson still holds the NCAA record for average yards per rush in the NCAA, 11 yards a carry when he played at UCLA.
Wow.
But he could not get into the NFL at that time, Charles.
And Big C,
he was the greatest running back in America and couldn't get into the NFL.
And that's when you you have so much knowledge. Sometimes I'm trying to Google what you say, but I can't Google that fast. But the way you run back in history and you bring it to the forefront, there were people who were not even born when some of those things you talked about happened. But the reason it's relevant is because in the climate that we had back in the Olympics in Berlin, we still have a lot of that climate today. And it's still in the hearts of some people. And people think, well, just don't talk about it because it makes people feel uncomfortable. And I think about how proud I am again. Because, and I'm still waiting for many of my white brethren to join us. You know, they'll catch up eventually. The same that they caught up to rock and roll and hip-hop music and everything else, Big C. And the inventions that always had a white label on it because black people couldn't own anything. But we were always the guinea pig.
Yeah. You talk about those labels, Charlton. Think about Elvis Presley. You think Elvis Presley wasn't in juke joints picking up
of course he was.
The rhythm and the dance? But, you know, black entertainers could not get on a record label.
Yep.
So Elvis was able to steal what they were doing and utilize it as his own thing.
Yep.
He created those dance moves. All you had to do was go to any juke joint in the South, especially in Memphis, Tennessee,
yep.
where Elvis would go in the back door, you know, late at night, didn't want his constituents to see him,
yep.
you know, hanging out in a black establishment in those days, Charlton. You think about Jerry Lee Lewis. He didn't learn to play the guitar like that from a white guy, Charlton.
No.
He was hanging out in the juke joint, listening at the black entertainers, stealing what they were doing because no record label would sign them and put them on.
Yeah.
So white entertainers at that time were able to steal droves and droves of African American music, even country music artists, Charlton.
Yeah.
Blacks played country music.
Yeah.
But they never got a chance to record. So over all the years, and we think about what's been stolen from a culture, Charlton, to say that it's theirs. You know, you think about the NBA. You know, we talk about professional basketball all the time.
Yeah.
And how it's become an African-American game. Who was the last white player to be drafted #1 overall in the NBA? A lot of people don't know that, Charles.
Yeah.
You ask that question just outright. Who was the last white player to be drafted #1? Bill Walton, Charles.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Bill Walton was the last white player to be drafted #1 overall in the NBA. So when people look around and say, you know, the landscape has changed, this is after desegregation, Charlton, when these things change.
Yeah.
Because prior to desegregation, you didn't get African-American players drafted first. Other than a couple, Charlton, they were white players being drafted all the time.
Yeah.
Because you were saying we have to limit their participation.
Yep.
And even in Major League Baseball, Charlton, prior to pre-segregation, African-American players were looked at like Latin players.
Yeah.
You can get them cheap.
Get them cheap,
And
yeah.
that's what they did. You got these players. You think about Hank Aaron at one time, you know, Major League Baseball home run king.
Home run king.
Had 714 home runs, Charlton.
Yeah.
755 home runs. 755.
Yeah.
Hank Aaron, at one point, when he was leading the Major League in home runs, was making $8,000 a year, Charlton.
Wow.
$8,000 a year. This is what Hank Aaron was making. Hank Aaron could not live in one of the upscale neighborhoods of Atlanta. He had to live in the minority part of town, Charlton.
Yeah.
He could not live in a white part of town because of who he, you know, of his color. Not who he was, but because of his color.
Yeah.
Here it is. He was probably one of the most noted people in the city of Atlanta, but he could not live in an upscale white neighborhood, Charlton. He had to live where his people lived.
Well,
and there was nothing wrong with that from the black perspective at that time, but Charlton, you were limited based on your color, which part of the city you could live in.
Yeah, and redlining, and that's why I'm so proud. And you won't hear this conversation anywhere in the universe, according to Big C Sports. You won't hear it but anywhere but us, but maybe like a minute segment, because a lot of people don't have the ability to talk about it, no matter how much they Google. I got to tie in why. When we started talking about sports and politics, sports will bring our country together a lot better and faster than religion, and even than politics, Big C. But it's one and the same. And I love the fact that Charles Barkley is not an ignorant person and thinking, hey, I made millions, I got mine, get yours, so why would I care about the downtrodden or other people? And this is for good white and good black people, and no matter what ethnic group you belong to, but usually the world is broken down in black and white, or people of color. But when I think about how everyone's going to clamor around the NBA draft or the NFL draft or who's going to get chosen in the baseball spring draft, we all look at that. And sometimes the young black kids might think, erroneously so, and sometimes led that way, to say, hey, I got to make it as an athlete. That's the only way I can make it. No, that's not at all. You can be extremely passionate about your family. You can be passionate about your education. You can strive to build a future for generations to follow and learning financial literacy. But Big C, what Charles Barkley, I'm so glad he took the lead. And we talked about why not Nick Saban. He's probably the most popular sports figure in Alabama, and you brought up how he's paid by the state as well. But where are other white athletes? You know, we hire them as coaches, we pejoratively as a country. They can get a job as a coach, like a Coach Pop or Steve Kerr. And they're very outspoken, and I'm proud of them men. However, why don't we have more white advocates that speak out about some of the things that we talked about that can be made better? Not just when there's an election, but when we talk about how to get a kid in college paid when they're helping the school make $100 million that year. Why are they not speaking out the way a lot of black athletes do, Big C? When we're not getting the coaches' jobs, but we'll go out and talk about things that help protect everybody, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at people speaking out, you try not to make the people you know uncomfortable more than anything else. The people that you associate with on a regular basis, you just didn't start associating with them. Your entire life has been with a certain sector of society.
But don't they want to do the right thing? Don't they want to do the right thing, Big C?
Well, because you make a speech periodically doesn't mean you didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
To a degree. But you're not going to turn over your whole life, Charlton, and say, I'm going to be this prescient person to go out and be a social activist.
Yeah.
As we had in the 50s and 60s with minority males and women.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not going to occur in society anymore. People have found their comfort level, and they don't want to move out of that. You can go out and give a speech. It's like when you listen to your president, and he sits up and speaks, Charlton, and he talks about all Americans. But you look at the representation through his cabinet. His cabinet does not represent all America, Charlton. His cabinet represents the people that he knows, the people that he's accustomed to associating with, Charlton. Not America.
That's true.
Because we don't have a cross-reference of people in his cabinet. We don't have Asian Americans. We don't have African Americans, Charlton, in huge numbers. I don't think we have one Hispanic American in his cabinet. I would really check to see if there was one Hispanic American in his cabinet, Charlton. Indian American. We don't have those, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's before the wall is built, Big C. Before the wall is built, it's not integrated. What do you think is going to happen if they're dumb enough to build that wall, Big C? Your thoughts?
So, these are the things when you look at, what is the picture of America? I mean, the picture of America is like the picture of a sports mosaic.
Yeah.
Okay, when we look at that. When we look at our Olympic team that's going to be coming up here for, Seoul, Korea, Charlton, here in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
When we look at that, this is the Winter Olympics. And African Americans have become more and more prominent in their Winter Olympics over the years because they normally didn't participate in cold weather sports. I didn't have a jacket to go out there myself. So,
it's too cold for you.
They were very prominent in the Summer Olympics. So when you think about how that growth and diversity has gone, when we have African American ski teams, bobsledders, Charlton, now participating in the Olympics, skiers. So, it's really grown in diversity. But that's the landscape of America. And when we talked about the NBA, the last white American to be drafted, number one overall, Bill Walton, I believe around 77, 76, somewhere around there, Charlton, when he was drafted, number one overall, 40 years ago.
Out of UCLA?
40 years ago out of UCLA, the last time that happened. That's because of the diversity that has occurred in the game and also people wanting to win. When you look at the roster stuff, and there are more Europeans brought into the Americans game than white Americans now. People don't understand that. I mean, you look at the white guys on the bench, they're not Americans. They're Europeans. So they have taken over that part of the NBA that white men dominated all through the 40s and 50s, Charlton, and early 60s.
Well, Big C,
so that landscape has changed.
That's a very good point.
Major League Baseball. People, it's still a large white contingency, but Latin American players, Charlton, are 50% of the players in Major League Baseball now. Latin American players. And so when you look at that, and Donald Trump wants to omit that from the game, he wants to say, no, I don't want these guys in America. That's what Donald Trump is saying. But he does not say anything about the Japanese or Asians that come into this country, Charlton, illegally and populate this country. I look at him every time he says, that there's an event and a non-white person commits this event, it's a terrorist act.
The guy in New York.
They have a white American go out and commit mass shooting. And they're not terrorists, and I'm still having a hard time understanding that. Because I'm an American and you're an American. But when someone white goes out and commits these heinous acts, since he's been president, more than any other time with any president in current years, Charlton, have committed these acts, And he does not consider them terrorists because they look like him.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, Charles. They look like him. When you praise neo-Nazis because they look like you, that's anti-American from our leadership position, Charles.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Big C. We're just asking everyone to participate in this egalitarian country that we have, where everybody is treated the same in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century, and they work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, even your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. You can call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Big C, I want to bring this up because, again, when I look at what the African American vote did down in Alabama of all states, Alabama, one of the most heinous states against people of color, I look at what sprung out of that. We even go back to Kaepernick, when Kaepernick took a knee for social equality. In mainstream media, let's be honest, they made it about the military, and it never was, because they didn't care to have his message heard. But since Kaepernick was bold enough to do that, now we had the NFL offering to give collectively about $100 million to help with some social causes. And we've had him being named, I think, Man of the Year by one of the large publications. But just today, Big C, December 14th, 2017, in the land of the free, the home of the brave, we have over 100, organizations, over 85,000 pro athletes that are involved in what's called the Sports Union Universal Declaration and Consent. And all that means is now more athletes, they have, for the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, they have more help and more fairness given in their contracts and how they're treated as people, and making sure they're financially not exploited. I think Terrell Owens and Eric Dickerson were talking about that in San Francisco recently. But that's so powerful. Big C, that came because of the push of Colin Kaepernick. I could even go back as far as Ali, but that's been a long time since he had that big council, when he had Kareem and there was Malcolm was there, and
Brown, Malcolm,
Jim Brown,
all these gentlemen,
a lot of great gentlemen. But just today, December 14th, 2017, we have this. It's breaking news in the sports world. The Sports Union Universal Declarations to protect the athletes. Big C, you've been talking about that ever since we began Big C Sports. Talk about what that means for smart people, other than just being known as dumb athletes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when white society, and a lot of that is the media, also don't know how to address a situation, they'll always point favor at something that it doesn't, interact with.
Yep.
And that's why when Colin Kaepernick took his stance, it made white America uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because he was bringing the issue back to the forefront that they had oppressed for a long time, Charlton. You think about the news outlets. When we finally get a video that's released 2 to 3 years after the fact of a heinous crime that has been committed, the latest one in a hotel that, this man was begging for his life and the police officer shot him, while he was on his hands and knees, even though he was white, Charlton. They still shot him. And the man said, I just don't want to die.
Yeah.
And the officer shot him anyway.
Yeah.
And the officer was acquitted because the officer said he felt that his life was in peril. The guy was in his pajamas crawling on his hands and knees.
Yeah.
But this incident happened 2 years ago. So as long as you oppress the truth from American society, whether it be in sports or whether it be in just everyday citizens' lives in America, and it's suppressed in sports all the time. We look at the CTE issue in football, Charlton. Look how long that was oppressed from the athletes as well as society. A great article came out about former, running back in the New York Times, Larry Johnson.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson was an All-American running back at Penn State, #1 draft, first-round draft pick of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson took nothing but punishment for 2 years at Penn State. He took nothing but punishment for 5 consecutive years with the Kansas City Chiefs, Charlton. Larry Johnson is going through the CTE protocol right now.
Wow.
And he's in fear of his own self, Charlton. We saw when Junior Seau took his own life, okay?
Yeah.
And several other players have done the same thing. Dave Jersey have taken their lives so that their brains could be studied in this CTE program.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson feels a fear of himself. He's been arrested several times, Charlton, since his retirement for battery situations,
Wow.
okay, against others. And now he feels that, he's in fear of taking his own life, Charlton. He's crying out because he does not feel he's in control of himself mentally.
Wow.
And so these are issues that the NFL has hidden for decades, Charlton. Said, well, there's no evidence that players are suffering from concussions. If there was no evidence players were suffering from concussion, Charlton, why do they have concussion protocol now on the sideline?
Yeah.
And you think about the sports equipment today is much more technologically advanced than what it was 30, 40 years ago, Charlton, 20 years ago, with these concussion compression helmets now that give, Charlton. I remember when I started playing football, Charlton, we had this thing called a suspension helmet. The older guys know what I'm talking about. There was a canvas suspension around inside the helmet. There was no padding. There was a canvas halo inside of the helmet that was held together by bands.
Wow.
That's what you had.
Yep.
Now, Charlton, they have so much different types of padding in their helmets. When I retired, we had these very advanced air pocket helmets, Charlton.
Oh, where they pump up the helmet.
That it came out at that time.
Yeah.
And the helmets have advanced well beyond that, Charlton. But for the NFL to say that they never recognized CTE, they're lying to themselves, because now anytime a player looks woozy, he's off the field.
Yeah.
Or at least the series going into this blue tent.
Yeah.
So the NFL lied about the health of players for decades because there was an economic disadvantage to exposing that, Charlton. And the greed of the owners, who knew that this was going on, suppressed their own doctors from letting the public know what was going on. So we cannot tell people of the dangers of this game.
Yeah.
Because think about the lawsuits that will ensue. They were more concerned about their profits than about players' health while they were playing and after they were playing, Charlton. This could cost us hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That these men that were billionaires were thinking about the health of players after playing would cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, how much can one of these rich, and I want to call them what Trump called them, need to spend during his life, okay?
Yeah.
I want to call them what Trump called African-American players.
Yeah.
You think about that. When you think about the selfishness of the owners in the NFL, Charlton, over the last 50 years, that they would not protect the interests of their investment. This is why they say that players are replaceable, Charlton.
Yep. Yeah.
Because the minute you get injured, I can get another one just like you.
Yeah.
It's always been said in the game, Charlton. I can get another one just like you. It's always been that. You think about the greatest players of all time, Charlton. Does anybody sit around and think about Jerry Rice anymore?
No.
No, they don't.
No.
Does anybody sit around and think about Emmitt Smith anymore?
No.
No, they don't. Jim Brown's a foregone conclusion. I mean, other than Joe Montana on a commercial, and Terry Bradshaw on a Sunday morning TV show, we don't think about these players anymore, Charlton.
No.
You think about some of the greatest linemen of all time. No one thinks about the late Deacon Jones. They don't. Larry Allen, other than getting inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame a couple years ago, no one remembers Larry Allen, one of the greatest offensive linemen in NFL history. Bob Brown, the big boomer. No one remembers Bob. Art Shell, first African-American coach of the NFL, perennial All-Pro and Hall of Famer with the Raiders. No one knows who these guys are, Charlton.
No.
But all of these gentlemen suffered. John Mackey, the first great tight end in NFL history, even before Mike Dickson, everybody remembers him.
Yeah.
John Mackey died of CTE, Charlton, and could not get help from the NFL. They denied he and his wife claim after claim. And he died in a nursing home with CTE, Charlton, that had no memory at the time of when he lost his life.
Wow.
I think about former great coach Marty Schottenheimer, and Marty didn't play that long, Charlton, but he has CTE. Marty last coached with the Kansas City Chiefs. He coached with the Redskins also, and the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
But he suffers from CTE. He has no memory left.
Wow.
But, they don't get the help, Charlton. We forget about our fallen stars because they don't play anymore. We look at the guys that we see on Madden, and that's all that matters. The guys that you see on SportsCenter.
Yep.
That's all that matters, Charlton, in the world of sports. You think about the number of baseball players, Charlton, that got hit in the face and got hit in the head with pitches.
Yep.
Okay, pitches that got away and suffered irreparable damage, and their careers were ended No one knows who these players are any longer, Charlton.
Yeah.
They don't think about them. You think about players who destroyed their knees, sliding in the base. No one remembers them. You only think about the guy that's playing now. I remember as a kid when we used to put baseball cards in the spokes of our bike.
Yeah.
We would all be multi-millionaires now if we weren't stupid, but all we wanted was that powdered up gum. We didn't have any sense.
What a loud bicycle.
There was no internet to let us know that you guys were stupid.
Yeah.
Throwing this money away.
That's funny.
Who remembers these players, Charlton, that are forgotten entities that have made it great? And when the NFL fought about putting together a slush fund for the old players that made the game what it is today, Charlton, and saying, well, they're irrelevant because they're throwaways.
Yeah.
What they did as pioneers in this industry means nothing today.
Yeah.
Because we have television, we have the internet, and we have these high-priced agents that make all this money. And so no one thinks about the guys who are wasting off, Charlton, who have these traumatic health issues, and not just brain, Charlton, but you think about the knee replacements, the hip replacements, the shoulder replacements. We talked about Jim Plunkett last week on our show, Charlton.
Yeah.
We were talking about quarterbacks, and there's only been 3 of them that's been traded to go on and win Super Bowls with other teams. Okay? Jim Plunkett has had a shoulder replacement, hip replacement, 2 knee replacements.
Yeah.
Jim Plunkett just turned 70 years old. Not in the Hall of Fame, Charlton.
That's a joke.
There's quarterbacks with lesser resumes than Jim Plunkett in the Hall of Fame. But Jim Plunkett's a minority.
Yeah.
He's a minority. And he can't even get voted in now, Charlton, by the Veterans Committee because he's past his 20 years.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that's crazy.
He can't even get voted in by the Veterans Committee because he's a minority quarterback with 2 Super Bowls. You look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL Hall of Fame, Jim Plunkett has 2 Super Bowl victories in 3 seasons and is not in the NFL Hall of Fame.
That's a joke, Big C, and it just talks about the climate, and that's why we're asking all of our brethren, black and white, to just do what's right. And that's part of what you talked about is part of that sports, that union, that universal declarations that was signed today. And I think about what you just said. When I think even the late Gene Upshaw didn't have an interest or a heart to care for the players, that was chronicled in Dr. Amalo and Will Smith in the movie Concussion that came out a couple years ago, Big C, on the CTE issue. And I think about what we can do now. Because, again, it doesn't take dumb people to get things done. It takes smart people and bold people. So I still want to give Colin Kaepernick a lot of credit for being bold enough to do something that protects the whole league that won't even give the man a job, Big C. That's how important it is when you do the right things. He's like a modern-day Rosa Parks, and I'm not trying to grandstand on Kaepernick. I'm just saying, here's a man that stood up for what was right, and people made it about military, and here he is advocating for guys that didn't even want to have him on their team. He's advocating for them to have even better working conditions when it comes to the world of sports. Big C, I want to touch on a few more things before tonight's show's over. I do want to touch on, we have an NFL game tonight. We have Vance Joseph, and also coaching against Chuck Pagano, Denver versus Indianapolis. Not that long ago, this was a marquee game. Now both programs are struggling, but I do want to find kind of what you brought up when you said Art Shell, the first African-American head coach brought on by the late Al Davis and the Oakland Raiders. Now you have Joseph going against Pagano, and they both teams are struggling, but now that you have a black coach versus a white coach, that's not much of an issue anymore at Big C, but there's still an issue in ownership because there are no black owners. And there is when it comes to politics, especially when you look at the Trump White House. Talk about the significance of Joseph and Pagano compared to what Art Shell, when Art Shell was given the coaching title, they made it seem like, oh my God, can this guy really coach people? I know he's a Hall of Famer. I know he's an All-Pro multiple times, but can he coach? It's not as much of an issue now. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this team was put together when Vance Joseph had already arrived, Charlton. This is a team that has four quarterbacks. And in that 4 quarterbacks, they have no quarterbacks, Charlton. They got 3 on the active roster.
Yeah.
None of them can play. They got Kelly on the injury reserve that they drafted this last season.
Yeah.
Who drafted all these quarterbacks and brought them all
John
in?
Elway.
John Elway, Charlton.
Yeah.
He brought all of these quarterbacks in. Everybody said, you can't find players that can play like you.
Yeah.
You ironically can't. Well, when you sit up and look up and down the ledger of professional sports, you don't find players who played like you. Generally, the guys who were more successful were guys that were not the stars in the game when it comes down to coaching. They were role players.
Yeah.
They found a level of success because they learned the game. They spent more time learning the game than being great in the game.
Yeah.
And so Vance Joseph has come under a lot of flack because he's been given some mediocre quarterbacks. I don't think he went out and signed Brock Osweiler.
No, that was Elway.
I honestly don't.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think he even drafted the kid Lynch. I don't think he drafted him, nor did he draft Simeon.
No.
He definitely didn't draft Kelly. So the quarterback that he's been given to play with, you know, I go back to what Bill Parcells said. At least let me buy some groceries. Okay?
Yeah.
I got to cook the meal at least. At least let me buy some groceries.
You want to buy that pot? You know, you good old boys down south don't buy groceries. You go out and hunt for most of your stuff, Big C. Would that make any sense?
Well, you know, but the reality is, people want to blame him.
Yeah.
And say, well, he's the reason for the Broncos' demise. Well, Jerry Kubiak didn't leave because he was a rocket scientist, okay?
Right,
he
right.
Didn't leave. He could read a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it was. He read. I don't have a quarterback knowing offensive line, so let me ease on out here with this Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being realistic. I'm going to leave my legacy. Let the next fool come in here and try to run with this.
Yeah.
And so they've had two coaches that have tried to do that, and nothing has occurred, Charlton. When you look at Pagano there in Indianapolis, they never gave him anything to support luck. You know, you think about the game tonight between these two teams. Frank Gore has been the one constant
He's
in
amazing.
the Indianapolis locker room since he's been there. Frank Gore tonight, I believe, is 59 yards away, Charlton, from becoming only the second player in NFL history to have 12 consecutive 1,000 yards from scrimmage seasons.
Wow.
Only assist by Emmitt Smith, the only other player in NFL history to do that, Charlton.
Yep.
So you think about the company that Frank Gore has kept, and he's done this with a mediocre team, Charlton, over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Nothing but him. You know he's the only one in the backfield that can get the job done.
Yep.
So, you know, when people want to put, you know, Vance Joseph on the hot seat saying, well, will he be around next year? He's done nothing wrong not to be there because he doesn't have a quarterback. And he doesn't have a say-so in that. He doesn't have an offensive line. He doesn't have a say-so in that. That comes from management not signing players to contract stuff. But when you look at Pagano, you know, they put all the eggs in one basket. And they had no luck with it, no pun intended. They had no luck with all the eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah, I understand what you said. And when you go out and buy eggs, Big C, I know you guys get them from the chicken coop, but it's good when you actually, I know why they have egg cartons now. In California, you know, sometimes you're watching your money, so they say, do you want a paper bag with that, or you want plastic or paper? You know, they charge for the bag now, Big C, so I thought I was going to save some money for the holidays. I said, no, I'll just carry them in my hand. Big C, I drop all 12 of those eggs, Big C. It doesn't make any sense. Next time, get the carton, okay? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, here it is, you know, when you look at this game tonight, Jonathan, Pagano most likely going to be gone.
Yeah.
You know, Jim Irsay, you know, is trying to face. But
Yep.
Pagano wasn't the GM not signing players or drafting
No.
players. You know, it's almost like the situation with the Cleveland Browns. Everybody wants to blame Hugh Jackson, Charlton.
Yeah.
But any intelligent person, go back. Hugh Jackson's been the coach 2 years there.
Yep.
All right? Look at the number of players that they passed over in the first 3 rounds in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson wasn't sitting there drafting the players, Charlton. You know, you think about players that are stars on other teams right now. I mean, the top 2 young quarterbacks in the NFL were passed over by Cleveland, Wentz and Goff. Okay?
Yeah.
They didn't let go. They didn't take them. Todd Gurley could have been drafted by the Browns. So, you know what? Kareem Hunt in Kansas City could have been drafted. Also, anybody, you know, Deshaun Watson could have been drafted by himself.
Yeah.
But they drafted players that have been non-productive. When you think about the first 3 rounds of the draft over the last 2 years, go and look at the players that Cleveland passed over. Either traded out of the position, Charlton, so that they could get other people. But yet, everybody wants to blame Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson was sitting there like Bill Parcells and Ted Vance. Damn, let me put one thing in the basket.
Let me put one thing. Yeah, that's funny.
Thing in the basket. You keep putting all these leftovers in here.
Yeah.
I want a piece of fresh meat.
Hey, Big C, don't get on the... Don't get on leftovers. Not all of us have an Escalade that can hold deer and elk and all that stuff. We got to get leftovers sometimes, Big C. So don't hit on leftovers, California style. I do want to bring up that thing you talked about, Gore being the second player for 12 consecutive seasons, 1,000 yards rushing. You know, I think he used to play in San Francisco at one time, and they got rid of him because they thought he was washed up. And now look at what he's doing. So congratulations to him and all the coaches in the NFL. I know it's a tough job, but at least when you brought up the point about Art Shell, I'm glad that more African Americans can have at least a seat at that table. Unlike the Trump White House, Big C, maybe that'll come when he's out of office. I do want to close with one story tonight, and I think when you look at basketball, the NBA, and we talked about this new deal that's going to help all the sports unions. There's over 85,000 pro athletes in over 100 organizations that are part of this, making sure that athletes get a fair deal. And that's all we talked about, Big C, making sure you're well-read and you're intelligent. Don't be a sycophant or a knucklehead just because somebody puts some money in front of you. It's what you keep that's more important than what they give you. At the NBA, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, Big C, they're playing the LA Lakers, and they had the Ball kid, Lonzo Ball, and I know we talked about who's going to go where, next year when this new contract's up. Is this a preview? LeBron has a house in LA. I know in the Eastern Conference he'd have more chances of getting back to the NBA Finals because Golden State's going to hold it down for the next couple of years. If he were to go to LA, is he getting a kind of a preview of the team that he would be playing with by playing the Lakers tonight in Cleveland? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, I look at this from an old veteran's perspective. You don't want to go out there and try to raise a bunch of kids, okay? When you raise your kids, it's hard to start all over. And let's put that in the
Yeah.
You deal with the grandkids, you only deal with what they're doing at the time, and you mess up their lives and send them back to their parents, okay?
Hey, it's Christmas, Big Z. It's Christmas, okay? They might be listening to you, Big Z.
As an old man, you don't want to go out there and raise somebody else's kid.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at LeBron. Everybody says because LeBron owns a house or two in L.A., he's going to L.A.
Yeah.
Look around the country, Charlton, and see how many athletes have homes in multiple cities, okay?
Yeah.
And LeBron is not just a basketball player, Charlton. He's in the media mogul business, okay?
Yeah.
He's a corporation. So LeBron has houses. No one talks about his house in Miami. He got a 22,000 square foot house in Miami. He's got a 32,000 square foot house in Cleveland.
Yeah.
He has in Los Angeles now. He has a 18,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
LeBron moves around. He doesn't want to stay in a hotel. When LeBron goes somewhere, he wants to be at home.
He got his own house.
He's no different than any other billionaire in America, Charlie, to have multiple residency, and LeBron is a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's a media person, Charlie. He's a personality. So he needs to be in a comfort level when he goes someplace.
Yeah.
If LeBron is to go anywhere, Charlton, it would not to be with a rookie-laden team, Charlton, a young team. He wants to go there with proven veterans who understand what it takes to be a professional, not trying to enhance your lifestyle off the court, Charlton. You've done that already. When you look at when he went to Miami, they stacked that team with veteran players, Charlton.
Yep.
Veteran players, guys who had tenure in the league. When he went back to Cleveland,
they
stacked it with veterans. They got rid of Andrew Wiggins, number one overall draft pick, who's done well in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Since being traded.
Yeah.
They didn't care for that, Charlton. They wanted a guy in Kevin Love who was ready to play a proven product. That's when LeBron wants to be around. LeBron is not in that teaching moment. Even though he's the coach of GM, he's not in that teaching moment.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, that's what you have to understand about LeBron. Everybody keeps saying he's going to L.A. Everything is laid for him to go to L.A. LeBron doesn't need L.A. to be in entertainment. How many commercials we see LeBron on every day?
Almost five a day, Big C, from what I understand.
So he's not in L.A. and he's in these commercials.
Yeah.
He was in Miami. He was in these commercials.
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't need L.A. L.A. doesn't need LeBron.
Yeah.
It would be nice as far as a marketing perspective for L.A., but he doesn't want to be in L.A. Trust me, Charlton. If he was to go anywhere, he's going to go where his hand is pat at, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he's going to go where he can compete now. Not have a bunch of hanger-ons, okay?
Yeah.
I remember Emmitt Smith made this statement and stuff. He knew that he had gotten old when players in the locker room started asking for his autograph. And he was playing with a bunch of fans.
Yeah. That's funny when you're competing against guys that want you to sign their shoes. I think Michael Jordan had that same story too back in the day, Big C. Also, when you talk about that point about LeBron wanting to go where they're veteran players in the last few minutes of the program, I look at Houston and you look at what I know Chris Paul's always injured, and I know he's not the guy I want having the ball with 5 seconds left down by one. I want to trust somebody else, Big C. but he has really fit in well when he's not injured, playing with Harden down there with the good old Bulls in Houston. Talk about him and how important it was for Chris Paul to go play with the veteran players. And as you said, you don't want to babysit somebody else's grandkids. Basically, your thoughts.
Well, Charles, since he's come back into the lineup, they won 11 consecutive games.
Yeah,
Chris Paul has learned that I can be a better role player than I can be the player.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And so he's accepted that. He doesn't have the team on his back. When he was brought to the Clippers from New Orleans, everybody said, oh, he's the piece that's going to make this team now.
Yeah.
The team will go as Chris Paul goes. Chris Paul is out there going with the team.
Yep.
Not as the team goes. He's going with the team. He's not the leader.
Yeah.
He's one of the pieces to help make this team solid, and he understands that. That's how LeBron is in his career.
Yeah.
LeBron at any night could go out there and get you 30, 40 points when he wants.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do that, Charles, for the rest of his career. He wants to go out there and say, if I got 22, 25 points, I've had a good night.
Yeah.
Because I have other guys getting that equal amount, Charles.
Yeah.
I don't have to go out there and put in 38 minutes in a game.
Yeah.
42 minutes in a game, Charles.
Yeah.
I can go out there and play 30 and be okay.
Yeah.
That's where LeBron wants to take his career to, but he's not going to get there, Charles, going out there playing with a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to understand what it means to win. They're going to say, oh, LeBron's on the team. So he's going to go out there and be on the team with a bunch of fans and watch them play. He doesn't want that,
when you have a player that won't decide what you decided autograph, I thought that was funny, Big C. It reminds me of a movie as we get ready to close. Pulp Fiction. From back in the day, we had the great Sam Jackson. There was John Travolta. There was Uma Thurman and a couple other good old boys that were in the good. One of the producers that a lot of people have a lot of issues with.
Quentin
Tarantino. I think he has a lot of good and bad in him, but he does make some good movies. But I remember when Bruce Willis was going into the fight, and he met Vin Rames in the bar, and he sat next to John Travolta, and he called him Punchy, and he said, "What you looking at?" He said, "You tell me what I'm looking at." And then Vin Rames said, "Hey, get over here," in the only way that Vin Rames could say it. And he told him that you go down, your blank goes down in the fourth round. You're not getting better. The only thing that gets better with age is wine, and you not fine wine, and take the money and run. And he didn't take the fall, Big C, but it's almost like what you said. At some point in time, an athlete, as you get up in age, you're not going to be like fine wine. You don't want to be thrown out there to help somebody else build their career. You want to go where you can win a championship. And I think when we look at what Chris Paul is doing, maybe at the end of the day, it helped him to get out of L.A. where there's so much distraction. He's down there with a Harden, and Harden is passing the ball. Last I checked, Big C, your thoughts?
Oh, he is. Harden is the most undefendable player in the NBA, Charles, because he has a complete offensive game.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard to gauge him. Chris Paul, he's a true point guard.
Yeah.
And having a true point guard, he's going to be a facilitator.
Yeah.
But he's also learned to step back, Charlton, and be just that facilitator. Not the guy that's looking to get 20 points a game like he was doing with the Clippers.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's that guy that understands that I have a wealth of talent around me. He's not competing against another teammate now, Charlton, for star power in an organization where we started animosity going back and forth in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
When he arrived in Houston, he knew they had a man already.
Yeah.
And his name was James, okay? James Harden.
Yeah.
That was it. And so he's inheriting
Yeah.
and the cast of characters that were there already because, Charlton, these guys were in the Western Finals last year.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he knew that the players that he was going to play with were already good.
Yeah.
He wanted them to make him better as a teammate. And so he went in and he assumed that role, Charlton, of being a teammate, not a team leader.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult for veteran players to do, to go in and be a teammate instead of a team leader. And that's the problem that they're having in OKC. When you look at Melo and you look at George,
Yeah.
these guys are used to being team leaders.
Yeah.
They have a hard time adjusting to being the teammates of a Michael Westbrook, Charles.
Yeah. Russell Westbrook with LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and you think about. Everybody has to learn to play with the younger players and older players, but you do got to share the ball. And speaking of sharing, we want to talk about giving back for anyone looking for work in the United States of America. If you're a real estate or insurance professional and you're looking for a job, we are starting to hire people. And you call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're out of work and looking for work, call 800-772-8624. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
We're talking, we got another one of these fantabulous Thursday night football games going on tonight. You know, with Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And the games are going nowhere anytime fast. And, you know, the interesting part of this game, we talked about Frank Gore talking getting to this, you know, pinnacle level of you know, recognition, you know, in late in his career. But where are these two organizations going to go? You got two coaches that are potentially on the hot seat. Everybody's been saying Pagano's been gone all year long because they're going to have a new GM. But, you know, you got to give Joseph another chance, because John Elway didn't help him out in any kind of way. You think about it. Vance Joseph is taking all the flack, the African-American coach. Easy to ride by the media. But John Elway, the sacred cow who made all those bad managerial decisions in Denver, is getting a pass.
Well, Big C, speaking of a pass, I appreciate so much you bring to the show, especially with your knowledge of history. I'm going to call you Mystic C. It's Charlton and Mystic C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If any woman is going through that garbage, please call 911, because no woman should have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.